With a frigid laugh. Going to Cameron's house was a complete accident. I never intended to leave our closet. Sir, how was it able to get to Charles Wallace before it got smacked at me? Her father, from what you told me, it's because Charles Wallace, though, if he could have deliberately gone into it, his words no longer sounded to her quite as frozen as one or two words that iced to her ears. Why did you only speak to her father? We can't do anything. We can't look for him. Maybe, I'm not sure. I don't know enough yet. Time is different on Camel's lots. Anyhow, our time is an acquaintance. Although at least it is straightforward, it may not even be fully one-dimensional because it cannot move back and forth on its line, only ahead. But that seems to be inverted on itself, so I have no idea whether I was imprisoned in that column for centuries or only 4 minutes. Silence was for a moment, then Father voiced again. I think I feel a pulse on her wrist now. Meg could feel that his fingers against her wrist. She did not feel her wrist at all. Her body was still stone, but her mind began to be capable of movement. She tried to deliberately make some kind of a sound to signal them, but nothing happened. Her voice started again. Calvin, about your project, sir. Were you on it alone? Oh, no. There were half a dozen of us. It's really not a new idea, but we did try really hard to let it be known ahead aboard that we were making it practicable. Did you come to Camel's house alone, or were you there with others? I came alone. You see, Calvin, there are no ways to try it out ahead with monkeys, dogs, or rats, and we have no idea whether it would really work or whether it would be completely by a different. Playing with time and space is dangerous, sir. But why, sir? I wasn't the first one. We drew straws, and I was the second. What happened the first? We don't know. Look, did her eyelids move? Silence was no, but it was only a shadow. But I did blink. Meg tried to tell them. I'm sure I did. I can hear you. I do something, but there was only another long silence, which perhaps they were looking at her, watching for another shadow, another flicker. They were heard in a voice again, a quiet, warmer, more like his own voice. We drew straws. I was second. We know Hank went. We saw him go. We saw him vanish right in front of the rest of us. He was there, and then he wasn't. We were trying to wait a year for his return, or nothing. We waited nothing. His voice cheapers. Sir, you must have been sort of a flap. Yes, Father, frightening as well as exciting. To discover a matter and energy are something. The size and illusion are in the same material substance. We know that this is, but it's far more than we can understand. Our punny little brains, I think you'll be able to comprehend far more than I, and Charles Wallace even more than you. Yes, but I need to know what happened, please, sir, after the first man. Meg, could you hear Father sigh? Then it was my turn. I went, and I'm here I am. A wiser and humbler man. I'm sure I haven't been gone 2 years now. What you've come, I have some hope that I may be able to return in time. One thing I have to tell the others is that we know nothing. What do you mean, sir? Her father. I just wanted to know that children were playing with dynamite in our mad rush. We plunged into this before. With the longest bite effort, Meg made a sound. It wasn't a very loud sound, but it was a sound. Mr. Murray stopped and listened. Hush, listen. We made a strange croaking noise. She found that she could pull open her eyelids and felt heavier and heavier. But she managed to raise them. Her father and Calvin were hovering over her. She did not see Charles Wallace. Where was he? She was lying on an open field of what looked like grass, stubborn, but she blinked slowly and with a difficulty. Meg, her father, said, Meg, are you all right? Her tongue felt like a stone tongue in her mouth, but she managed to croak. I can't move, tried Calvin urged. It was as though he were very angry with her. Wiggle your toes, wiggle your fingers. I can't. Where's Charles Wallace? We burnt the stone tongue. Perhaps they could not have understood her, for there was no answer. We were knocked out by a minute, too. Calvin was saying, You'll be all right, Meg. Don't get panicky. He was crouched over her, and though his voice was contacted, he was sent across between, peering at her anxious eyes, and knew that he was still have her glasses on, because he could see clearly his freckles and his stubby black eyelashes in the bright blue of his eyes. Her father was kneeling on the other side. The man of the hands of the business whose glasses still blurred his eyes. He could feel his fingers. He sounded quite calm, as though there were nothing extraordinary about, and having her completely paralyzed at the quiet of his voice, she felt calmer, and then she saw there was giant drops of sweat on his forehead, and she noticed that vaguely there was a giant mental breeze. But her cheeks was cool. At first his words seemed frozen. Was wind what was mild? Was it cold or icy there? Cold or here or warm? Can you feel my fingers? He asked again. Now he asked no pressure against her wrist child's walls. Her words a little less blurred, her tongue and her lips began to feel cold and numb, as though she were given a nice dose of Novocaine in the dentist. She realized with a start of her body and limbs they were cold. She was not only warm, she was frozen from head to toe, and it was like this only made her father's words seem like ice. And feel like I'm frozen, she said. Give us a time for this cold that cut deeper than the wind and the bitterest winds of days. She was away from it, and unexplained iciness was almost as bad. She was almost as bad as her father had not saved her. Now she was able to look around a little, and everything she could see was rusty and gray. There were trees edging the fields in which she lay. The leaves were the same brown as the grass. They were plants. They might have been flowers, except they were dull and gray in contrast to the gypsies of color, to the color that numbed her. The air was filled with delicate spring-like fragrance. The almost miraculous blew softly against her face. She looked at her father, and they were both in their shirt sleeves, and they looked perfectly comfortable. It was